Boop.
All right.
Me.
So I do remember last time that we mentioned a Fire Emblem thing briefly, but then when we were talking about it this morning, I made a comment and you're like, you want to hear about that.
Yeah. You said you'd done some thinking about something, and I got curious, so now I want to hear it.
So for context, and there's a decent amount of context, and one of the things that's involved is something you don't really care much about, and I apologize. I'll try to get through it as quickly as possible. There is a gentleman who is an actual play dungeon master named Brennan Lee Mulligan. Phenomenal individual. I believe that he is very funny in a lot of the things that he does. He's on uh, Dropout, which used to be College Humor type of thing, and he's the guy that DMs for Dimension 20. Recently, he's done a four-part series for Critical Role called Exandria Unlimited Calamity, which is kind of their big historical event type of thing. It would be like if somebody was playing a D&D game shortly before and then during the breaking of the world in the Wheel of Time type of thing, for context. It's dark. It is much darker than a lot of D&D things tend to go sometimes, or at least like as a whole, because it's about wizards who have all of this hubris and all of this pride type of thing. It's good. I'm enjoying it. It's great. Um, and then I made the mistake of going on Reddit.
Mm-hmm.
With that, what came to mind was there was an individual who made a post, and to preface this, there is nuance in this type of thing that I am not addressing because it was not addressed in the comment type of thing. Like, it's, oh, in my opinion type of things. I understand that, but that's not what's said in such situations. And so, while I do not blame this person for making it because taste is subjective, they had said that Brennan really shines when he's allowed to do darker things. And I took exception to that because the thing that made me fall in love with Brennan Lee Mulligan was his Bud Cubby speech, which ended with laws are rules made by the upper class to control the lower. That is the general idea of it. That's not the entire thing. And that was with their campy high fantasy high school type of thing. There's also the fact that he did a roleplay moment with a character named Liz Herrera with one of his players, Lou Wilson's character, Kingston Brown. And that was phenomenal. For some people, it might be mildly traumatic because it's two adults that are talking about their divorce and having an argument about it. But it's still phenomenal in regards to that. The latest completed actual season of Dimension 20 was called A Starstruck Odyssey, which is sci-fi story type of thing. Kind of like it's kind of like space 50s aesthetic or like American 50s type of thing. And it's really cool. It used to be a series of plays that his mother, Elaine Lee, put on, and then eventually she and I can't remember the individual's name who did it, who did the art, got together and published it as graphic novels type of thing. And Brennan went, "Hey, can I run a D&D game with us?" And she was like, "Yeah, sure, go for it. Do what you got to. I'll even come in and do interviews and things like that." It was great. It was fantastic. It wasn't dark. It was chaotic. It was like all of these weird things happening at once, but it was great type of thing in regards to it. There's also the fact that like speeches that Brennan does in regards to it. There's a generally speaking, if you go into YouTube right now and you type "Game Changer Brennan rant," you'll get 2 minutes of Brennan just going off type of thing, and everybody loves that. And it just bothers me so much that dark stories, things that involve like murder or like deeply political things and betrayal and all this thing gets like held up on this big pedestal. It's not because I dislike it as a whole. I mean, our first game was Chronicles of Darkness that we played, and I constantly make the joke anytime that I'm in a game with Ghost about, you're not gonna play a dirty rotten traitor this time, are you? Type of thing.
To be fair, I don't feel like we played that system to like as dark of an extent as it could have been.
I don't. You're right, I don't. I do kind
Um,
of lean more into the dramatic aspect of it than other
yeah,
things.
and I mean I'm fine with that. Like I'm not big on horror or dark stuff myself, but I think that it's a trend. Um, Because I mean, we have Game of Thrones, which is also put on a pedestal as this is the next level of fantasy because it is darker than Lord of the Rings. It's more like gory, mature, and like mature within quotation
Mhm.
marks. Um, in that there's more sex, there's more gratuitous violence and torture and plotting and scheming than is in, for example, Lord of the Rings, which I mean is the biggest other fantasy cinematic experience, I should say, because there are a lot of like books aside from Game of Thrones and Tolkien that have pretty big success. I mean, I guess Harry Potter is also another big fantasy movie series. Of course, Game of Thrones
Mm.
isn't movies; it's a series rather than, but it's within the same medium, the visual
Mhm.
medium of cinema-ish. Um, and I feel like Game of Thrones is also held up on a pedestal, partially because of like the violence and mature themes and like, but to me, I grew tired of Game of Thrones before the last season. I think uh, season 6 and 7, I was already like, I'm so tired of this at this point. I don't care about anything in this anymore. Um, and I still watched, I think, season 7. I watched half of that before I gave up on the entire series. Um, but looking at the success of Game of Thrones, I almost feel like half of the praise, well, maybe not. Like it is a good series, don't get me wrong. I
Sure.
can I can see why it's hailed and praised quite highly, but I think also a part of it to me still feels like shock value of, oh, a fantasy series can be this dark rather than like it providing that, like, yeah, sure, it does things for the story to some extent, but at some points I almost feel like, yeah, now we're just doing things to see if we can shock people.
I blame Chris Nolan's Batman
Fair enough.
because, like, up until that point, the darkest superhero movie was Blade, and that's because, well, it's a vampire movie as well, type of thing. And so there's going to be a lot of stuff in regards to it. And Blade was wildly popular, and I don't blame people. Blade's cool. Blade's got that aesthetic, you know. Same stuff with, like Underworld and things, you know, leather coats, mystical creatures beating the hell out of each other. Um, but like other than Blade, a lot of superhero movies around that time was your early X-Men's, was your Spider-Man, was before that was Batman and Superman type of thing, where you had everything from Michael Keaton as Batman to George Clooney Batman fighting Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze type of thing, which honestly, I miss the colorful aspect to it. I know I'm kind of in the minority on that one at the moment, but that's fine. But like it became this darker, grittier thing type of thing, especially in the second one, Dark Knight Returns type of thing, where you had like the Joker's motivations and it was less Wahoo Wacky Pizza Man and more chaos with a purpose type of
Mm.
thing, which is fine. Like I like those movies. They're fine. They're great. I have a good time when I sit down and watch them or when I talk about them with people. But like a lot of media since then, whether it's taking like a lot of visual media rather since then, has been very dark almost as often as it's not.
Yeah. And
And it's
I
just
mean,
oh god.
it's for me, it's about finding a bit of a balance now because I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty fed up with the super dark hopelessness. Everything is every good action will only pay itself back by the character performing it being shit on. Because I feel like that's also a part of like the grim dark thing. Is like anyone who acts selflessly, you know they're just gonna end up being horribly abused in various types of ways until they are either jaded or dead. um, and like, cause yeah, I just want a little bit more balance to stuff now. Because then I also look at if we're gonna turn a bit to games. I'm thinking now about, for example, Pokemon. I would like to have a Pokemon game that is slightly like, I mean, it's okay for it to be for kids. Pokemon is kid friendly, don't get me wrong, but I would like for it to also be adult friendly in that, like, can we at least assume that the player has a half functioning brain and doesn't need hand holding every step of the way? you know?
Uh, just out of curiosity, because we're talking about themes and stuff and kind of brought up Pokemon. Have you played Colosseum or Gale of Darkness?
No, I have not.
Okay, I do recommend those because they are a good balance between them, in my opinion.
Mm,
The reason why a lot of people are turned off on them is because when it comes to Pokemon games, they're more difficult
mm-hmm,
because there's not many wild Pokemon in them. So
mm,
you don't get to go and grind
yeah.
type of thing. Um,
I mean, I'm
but
fine with it. Like, cause that's the thing. You can very easily make Pokemon easy for yourself.
mhm.
And so I feel like, well, do we have to then also turn the difficulty level way down? Because I feel like surely the games must have gotten easier. It can't just be that I've gotten older. I feel like they've also gotten easier.
Debatable.
I don't know.
The UIs have gotten better. There was somebody that made a aspect in regards to game design type of thing, and it was Ocarina of Time seems more difficult or seems less difficult now than it did then because we spent so much time waiting for the opening to kind of counterattack type of thing. And with Pokemon, it's not that Pokemon's easier necessarily. There's probably some math where it is like a little bit easier in regards to things like between different stats and whatnot, or how effective things are, different abilities. But the advent of the XP share affecting all your Pokemon from the beginning and while catching, the only thing that's doing is saving you time
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
because and that's what a lot of people associate with difficulty type of thing is just like, oh well, I don't have to go out and spend this much time grinding. I'm like, thank God I don't have to fucking go out and spend 40 hours grinding
On that
type of
point,
thing.
I am just happy because I seem to recall in the later games you get to see the stat increases for all the Pokemon in your party that level up, even if like, because in the older games, I am, or at least some of the older games, I'm quite certain you only get to see the lead Pokemons. Like, if anyone else levels up in your party, you wouldn't get to see what they got for that particular level, stat-wise.
It has been a long time.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And for me, I mean, I know I can just go in and check stats, and I know it doesn't ever matter to me really, but I enjoy seeing those numbers. I want to see, like, did my starter Pokemon get a +3 speed? I want to see that, please and thanks. Or did they get a disappointing +0? I also want to see that, you know?
And
It's something that I enjoy for no good reason whatsoever, but I want to see it.
big number go up.
Yeah.
As an aside, I have seen some pretty interesting things in the Iron Man thing because what they do is they also randomize base stat totals
Mm,
type of thing. So what that means is that if your Pokemon normally has high speed and high attack type of
mm,
thing, it'll keep the total at like 540 or whatever it's supposed to be at 540. But now you might have like high HP and high special defense instead,
mhm.
type of thing. And so some people have accidentally loaded a new ROM on their old save, and then they level up their Pokemon, and then it's like -15 to one stat, +25 to another. And it's like, wow, that's intense.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also the same, like, now, I accidentally found a way to segue this into Fire Emblem because I'm the same way about like Fire Emblem. I enjoy seeing the sometimes very disappointing and sometimes very good results of leveling up in those games because I mean sometimes you have your mage and they level up and they get like +1 HP, +1 strength, +1 defense, +0 magic, and you're like, God fucking damn it, why are you like this?
My favorite is when you know that they don't have a max in a stat yet, and then you level up and they get nothing.
Yeah. Mhm. That one hurts. And it's really frustrating and I get angry, but I like that pain as well. Like if you gave me the opportunity to remove it, I wouldn't take it. I'd be like, nah, nah, I hate this and I'm keeping it. I love to hate this.
Mhm.
Because I think that, it without the risk of that, the reward of seeing the good numbers is just lessened.
Mhm. Because and to keep it on Fire Emblem and to kind of segue back to the other topic, like the reason why Fire Emblem sticks out is Fire Emblem deals with a lot of deep, dark, heavy topics. Path of Radiance has a major aspect of the plot be about racism, slavery, and, for lack of a better term, human trafficking type of thing.
Hmm.
It is a integral part of the plot type of thing. But the difference between the dark that I'm talking about and Path of Radiance in this particular case is Path of Radiance has hope.
Yeah.
There is an aspect and you're fighting for change.
Hmm.
A lot of those other stories, like while they're good and while I enjoy them, there's no hope to be had.
No, I see what you mean there. I feel like they're more about this is reality, accept it. Doing anything different will only suck for you. That's how it feels to me. It's like don't be a good person because no one else is gonna be. You're just gonna get abused if you're a good person, and so you should just abuse others before they can abuse you. I feel like that almost becomes the message sometimes of these grimdark stories. Um,
Depending on it, because like even in Starstruck, right? Starstruck is one of the things where if you want to be a good person, you have to work to get those rewards, type of thing.
mm,
But while there are huge factions like Megacorp aspect to it, and then the giant entertainment conglomerate on another one, and like all these different things, like while they are huge and while they are going to sit there and chew you up and spit you out, there are individual other organizations that try to help you out. Like there's unions in there for people who are mercenaries. Like there's mercenary unions.
Mm.
And if you need backup, as long as you've done all the stuff and paid your dues and done the things that you're supposed to, they'll have your back,
Mm-hmm.
type of thing. And like that's it's I think that's why I liked the Starstruck season of Dimension 20 so much, is because it's a balance between that dark aspect to it where it's this isn't just another form of Fantasyland or a space utopia or whatever it is, but it's also like I'm not gonna get punished by stopping somebody that has a slaver caravan, type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. I mean, like not directly punished at least. Like there's a there's a chance,
Yeah.
type of thing.
And I mean, I'm okay. Like, there's also like, okay, so give me some consequences for doing the good thing then. But because I mean, sometimes you can have both consequences and rewards. It's like, yeah,
Mhm.
you do this and you get this reward and you get this consequence that might not be so positive for you that you have to deal with. And I mean, that's okay. But when every single positive action is just punished, on the other hand, a lot of games do the opposite, where every evil action is punished, so it's really difficult. Like in a roleplay game, to like if you want to play evil, sometimes the difficulty of the game just fucking spikes because you get punished for it. And I mean that's also kind of bad, I think. I mean I don't enjoy playing evil runs, most of the time, because most of the time it's too bad. Like I just I can't handle the guilt that I feel. I can't. I'm chaotic good at heart, and I will. If I start playing evil, I stray too far from my alignment, and I can feel my paladin powers. Well, actually, I couldn't be a paladin; they're lawful good, but my cleric powers? Question mark? Fading? I don't know. Something something classes.
I think, well, yeah, like as long as there's a balance of consequences, like healing your soul a little bit and getting some experience, but your boyfriend comes back as a 8 foot tall monstrosity.
Well, was it really was it necessarily a good action to kill him? I don't think she did that because it was the right thing.
She,
For the
she
record, this
didn't
is
she
about a
didn't do it.
roleplay thing,
Yes.
where my character ended up killing her ex-boyfriend because he was an asshole.
Um, it definitely wasn't because of the greater good type of thing, which
No.
is fine. Was it a good thing to kill him? Entirely. It was definitely a good thing to kill him. He was an asshole. He was like already on human experimentation.
No, the reason why she killed him was because he was on animal experimentation, particularly
Yeah,
her doggo.
yeah.
And she was like, no, you hurt the
And
one thing I love more than anything else in this world, including you, so now you die.
and then it was like, it's interesting fighting other deviants, and I just made him literally immortal. This is
Yeah, and I mean, for me, he was fucking Seymour. He kept coming from Final Fantasy X, I should say.
yeah.
'Cause he kept coming back.
Came back twice. Yeah, twice.
Was it just twice? I feel like it was 3 times.
He came back. The first time that he came back was against just you and Charisma.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Because didn't he
I
come
remember the
back one more
hospital.
time before the hospital incident?
Um, I know I did scenes where he was stalking you.
Maybe that's what I remember.
Yeah, it's just like,
Could
oh
be.
yeah, and by the way, there's like somebody out the window that you don't notice, type of thing. Little things at the end of sessions and stuff like
Yeah.
that. People cooling down. But yeah, I think the only time where it was encounters was against him was those two times. I
Yeah.
think.
Could it could be. Ah, that was fun though. It was a fun villain arc. But I don't think it ever quite got resolved.
Technically speaking, the only way to get him to die permanently is to fill up his instability tracker.
Hmm.
But he's a feral, so he can't really cure his instability, so it's just a matter of time.
Oh, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah.
But regardless, I used him twice, so it would be a time for a break either way, type of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, and
But
now we're on a different system, so
I still have my notes for that if we ever get back to it and Ghost comes back.
yeah.
But like even stuff like that, while it is like a horror system type of thing, it is something that I still try to sit there and push more so there are other types of rewards or things other than consequences because just Grimdark is so fucking exhausting. There's no other way
Hmm.
to say it.
Hmm. Yeah, and I feel like, yeah, you know, I I I need just more positivity in my life. I'm exhausted. There's too much shit happening in my life. I don't understand when will I catch a fucking break? That's how I'm feeling right now with recent events. Um and Grimdark just does not provide what I need. And also just the world in general right now feels pretty unstable and depressing. So it's like, yeah, you know what? I'll take a bit of happiness in my games, please and thanks, and some hope too.
Yeah. That's why it's like, you know what? Why don't you go be a god?
Yeah, yeah. And since we're on the topic of role playing games, I'm soon TM. I'm going to get to be a player in a Pokemon tabletop role playing game, for which I am very
Yeah.
excited because this is something I wanted for years. Literally years, and looks like it'll happen. We'll have to see though, because
Yay.
like I don't always mesh with all groups, so we'll see how well I mesh with the group. I can only find that out by playing, so hopefully it'll be fine.
No, I think that the DM for that one is definitely somebody that would probably address it like I would, which is these are people that I like role playing with that I know would like the system that I'm about to suggest, or I'm pretty certain would. And it's worked out so far. And from what I know of that DM, I think that they are similar or would approach it similarly.
Yeah, it's more like a group dynamic sort of thing with
Hmm.
other players because while it's been great in our group, in our shared group, where I feel like everyone meshes super well in what they want from playing and how they play. That hasn't always been the case for me. In fact, it's very rarely been the case that I mesh well in what I want out of role playing and how I like to role play. And I feel like I sometimes, without intending to, I make people uncomfortable because I can be pretty like my characters can be pretty confrontational. I enjoy like I don't shy away from my characters having conflicts with other characters in the group or going against the group if it furthers their personal agenda or if the group's agenda goes against what they want. Uh, well, or if one character is religious and my character happens to very much look down on religion, tensions can happen.
There
Uh,
was that one. The other thing that I was thinking of was making a deal with a Titan, you know.
well, I mean, he didn't know what he was doing, okay? That goes
That's
against
fair.
that goes against his own agenda, I would say. But yeah, so I'm just hoping that people don't get too offended and that I don't get bored because that's the other thing that can happen and it has happened in the past for me is like I'll play with people and I feel like there's no personality to the characters, there's no motivations for anything, and they're just going along with this is what the group should be doing because this is what the DM wants us to do. This is how the plot moves forward, so this is what we're doing. No questions asked, and anyone who wants to do anything else is an obstacle. Which is to say me, because, sometimes my character wants to do something for their own reasons, and it's like, no, you're stalling the plot that the DM is railroading us on. Well, I mean, the DM doesn't even necessarily have to be railroading, but it's like everyone senses what the DM is intending, and so it's like, this is what we're gonna do because it's what the DM intends.
Word to the wise, just make different plans for what you want to happen. Like, really, actually talking about what we previously talked about with your character Ruby incinerating her ex-boyfriend, I had that planned in like three different possible aspects to it. Um, I didn't expect it to do like that, but it was like, wait a minute, he's got this stuff anyway. He can do this here, type
Mm.
of thing. Because what I was expecting was you to go after one of your other conviction touchstones, and then after killing her, it would have been a dramatic scene, and then he would have transformed into the 8 foot tall zombie Hulk monster
Mm-hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah,
Because
I
I know
felt
that you
like it
wouldn't have.
was it was semi hard to go after the other touchstones. Not that she didn't have the motivation, but I also felt like I don't know, there were other things going on and then like other people's touchstones and events around other people and
It
not
just
wanting
kept kidnapping people.
for example. For example. So, and I also did not expect to be incinerating him that session. It just, she gotta look into his history. Found
You
things.
rolled relatively well, and it's kind of hard to sit there and be like, "Oh yeah, no, he's totally faking." It's like, no, he's being legit here. He's a dick.
Mm, mm. Um, so, and then it was like, is this really what she would do? And I found that yes, this is really what she would do. There isn't much that would push her to this, but this particular thing, yeah. And that was not necessarily a good thing for the group either, because this happened in our safe house. Uh, and also,
Be
it
fair.
sort of got us attacked by a monster several times over. But, like, the group didn't mind. The group, I think, enjoyed it.
Hmm.
And thought it was an interesting story. And also, they didn't mind, like, that's the thing about them. They don't mind the character centric side stories, even though it might mean sitting quiet for 15 minutes, a good 15 minutes of a session, and just listening to what's going on between the DM and one or maybe two players. Um, I know that I don't mind listening to the other characters' stories, even if like I just have to sit and listen for a good portion of the time. I enjoy it a lot. It's part of the fun.
Hmm.
Sometimes the fun is doing things as a group or having combat and stuff, but other times it's just sitting back and enjoying someone else's story and spotlight. Um, and but
Well,
some groups don't really get into that. They get bored if they don't get to be part of the action. And that's fine. It's just I don't mesh well with that type of player.
that's fine. But yeah, no, it's just like that's generally the way that I try to go about it is kind of just multitasking and figuring out different ways if I want something to happen type of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Like I had a party thing half planned out in the background for a lot of people's conviction touchstones to be at, which just would have been a hoot and a half. Um, I had like generally speaking, shortly after the game started and Ruby was a successful test subject, that's when he started carrying around the EpiPen.
Mm.
And you want to know what I expected to do?
No.
I expected when you guys were doing the villain one shot. of that.
Mm-hmm.
I expected Netherlad to use his because Kenneth Myers also had one.
Oh.
And I put it in there too. I never asked about it, never done anything in regards to it. I expected that. I was like, oh no. Oh no.
Would he have become the same type of monster or something else?
Would have had a lot of the same abilities, but he probably
Mm.
wouldn't be the same type of monster. He probably would be closer to an actual deviant compared to a feral.
Mm.
But generally speaking, he probably would have had abilities similar to that of the manticores type of thing.
For the
Uh,
record, manticores here means animals with supernatural abilities, basically.
mhm. Because generally speaking, you had the fire cat, the super strong rabbit, the lucky pig, and the dog that had the ability to give other people powers through goop. Um, so he probably would have gotten something along those lines, or one of those ones type of thing.
The dog, the goopy dog we called Goopy Doo.
Mhm.
Just putting that out there.
But like there was just other aspects and other plot threads things. Some of the stuff that's still partially addressed is you guys found out that the pharmaceutical company that uh, these characters were working with released a drug, and we haven't followed up on that for various reasons.
Yeah, there was a lot going on, and that is one of the reasons why I'm so impressed with you as a DM as well, because it always feels like there's stuff happening in the background and there's a lot going on, and regardless of what we like, regardless of where we place our interest, there's still more. There's always more that you like that we want to go into. There's rarely ever a moment where you feel like, oh, I don't know, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to look into or anything. Like sometimes maybe it's a bit difficult to figure out how to go about finding things out, but there's always something to find out more about. There's always a plot moving somewhere. And I think one of the things that makes it feel alive as well is that if we move on one thing and ignore another thing, that might come back to haunt us. And that's an interesting aspect, I think, that I would highly recommend for other DMs is set up a couple of different threats and plots.
I know that I really like Onyx Path. Part of the reason I was able to do that was because you had the Blue Book one was all me. I will completely take credit for you guys as mortals figuring out all that other stuff as Rachel was doing her own thing. Um, conspiracy actions type of thing. It is in Deviant the Renegades. It kind of tells you this is your bad guy organization, and if they roll on this, here's what they are allowed to do type of thing. I think one time they failed really badly, so I asked you guys,
Mm-hmm.
so this is what they're planning, either through your contact elsewhere or through some of your other people there. You find out that this is what they're planning. What do you want to do about it? Type of thing.
Yeah, and I think now I have never DM'd Apocalypse World, but I do think that they also in their system have something because they have threat maps, and you are,
Mhm.
as I understand it, supposed to put up a couple of different threats. And they will also move in accordance with their motivations, and like depending on how long they are ignored, they will accomplish different things and
Mhm.
attack different aspects of the player's resources or things that they hold dear. Um, and
I was.
I think that systems that give the DM, because like of course you can do those things in any system,
Mhm.
yada yada yada. But I think that systems that actually incentivize or instruct their DMs on how to do that, I think are still better because a system that makes a DM better to me is a good system, as opposed to a system that requires a DM to be good. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
Casual reminder, regardless of our personal tastes on it, we don't want you to stop playing your favorite system. We just want you to have better games in your system.
Yep. And I mean, even if you don't like the setting or the rest of the system, just looking at something like, you know, the Chronicles organizations charts or Apocalypse World's threat maps, and then taking inspiration from it could be good, could be beneficial, might make your worlds feel more alive as a DM.
Aspirations has been a mechanic I've been trying to get help people get into 5e because I adore that mechanic. It makes it so the player is more invested in the
Mm-hmm.
world and in the characters. Which I think the Netherlad, one of our other players on our Tuesday game, I think we're kind of almost most of the way through cracking something on that one. He'll let me know how that goes because he's doing it with his Saturday group. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yep.
I
And
was going to pull up and share my Obsidian notes, and then I remembered if we go back to Deviant, that's gonna spoil things.
so maybe don't do that.
Because I was going to use it as an example of how a lot of this stuff is tied and interconnected together, like thing.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting. And I think that uh, as a player playing within Chronicles of Darkness and stuff, where you have aspirations, you as a player have aspirations for your character, and it might also be what your character wants, but not necessarily. It's what your player wants for the character.
Mhm.
Um, and I think that as a player, I'm trying to bring that with me. I'm actually really bad about setting up aspirations because I fail to prep every single time. We have a session tomorrow, and well, it will be today by the time this airs, but
Mhm.
um, at the time of recording, tomorrow we have a session, and I was supposed to do prep. Have I done prep? No, I have not.
You haven't. I also know that you were finishing up your thesis stuff, and then you got a lot of your bad news,
Yeah,
which is why I didn't ask at all. It was like, you're almost done, you're at the home stretch, and that I was like, oh no,
yeah,
I'm not going to be pushy for that.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, at this point, I'm focusing on supporting my family emotionally
Understandable.
and taking care of myself emotionally. So, for me, just even doing this is, you know, sort of stepping up in a way. Uh,
I will
yeah,
say stuff like this and playing is in self-care. I know I showed you that part of the self-care wheel, so if you do need a break and to take a breather at any time,
that's okay. I will definitely be playing, but
of
again,
course.
it'll be a low prep. I won't know what's going on with my own
I'm just
character.
I'm just asking for one. A casual reminder there is a big intimidating motherfucker coming after you, so whatever you want to do in regards to that, I just ask for one for
Yep.
at least until we get to hero. And then we gotta prep a little bit more.
Mhm. But yeah, I I've actually on and off I've been thinking of taking on a group and DMing again, but then, you know, shit like this keeps happening and I can't even like look at my own player characters and I'm like, it's a good thing I'm not a DM right now because I'm already very low prep. And mostly just improv, for better or worse. And right now I'm so rusty as well.
Despite what it sounds like, I am too.
Yeah, but it
I
doesn't show
hadn't.
when you do it.
I
Somehow.
don't think I've actually written out any notes for the next session.
Like I don't know how you manage it, but kudos to you for
See,
managing.
see, the funny thing is, I haven't written any notes for tomorrow's session that I'm going into, right? And for 2 or 3 months, my monk character, my Monday game that I also play with another lad and Keystra with other players on Tuesday. Um, I took a break from him for a few months, type
Hmm.
of thing. Well, we took care of some other stuff, and I played a different fighter. I had an itinerary for what that monk was doing. Like at the beginning of last episode, it's part of the reason why we didn't actually get to leave town on our next mission was because it was like, so my character's been up to some things while he's been away. Would we like to make those rolls now, or do we want to do those in private? It's like, go ahead and do them now, and it took like half an hour, 45 minutes to get through the list.
Yikes. Well, you do you.
He
It
did a
sounds
lot.
it sounds both fun and horrible at the same time.
It was literally like just because it was this is the stuff that he'd be taking care of and looking into in order to progress the plot and do his side quest stuff type of thing. Like this is what we're looking for. This is what we're doing, and it just built up, and yeah, and then obviously I couldn't plan for what the result of the roles would be
Mm.
until I knew them. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a little bit extra roleplay type of thing. It was nice. It was fun. Everyone seemed to have a good time. The DM definitely appreciated the fact that I had everything that he had planned out, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had a sending stone. Sorry, I'm gushing about this, but it's fun. They had a sending stone, and so the couple of times that they send messages to my characters, because it's more like a phone rather than, oh, you can cast a sending spell once a day. That's silly. Um, in my opinion. It was like, okay, what time of day is it? And then I would open up the list and be like, this is where he's at, type of thing. It was,
Fair enough.
oh man.
Yeah. Um, for the Pokemon roleplay, I my original idea was to play a breeder because that system has classes. Well, actually, we ended up going a different system than I originally thought.
Mm.
And originally, I was gonna be a breeder in a different system, but then the DM settled on another one, and I the classes work differently in that one. They're more like traits basically, so you can have multi-classing is practically demanded of you in order not to end up without things to choose or something like that. I still haven't looked very deeply into that system either for the same reasons why I haven't looked into my own character for tomorrow's games. Um,
Do you know
but
what
yeah,
Pokemon
so
you want?
what?
Do you know what Pokemon you want at least?
No, I don't.
Oh,
I originally thought that we would be given choices or maybe even just given one. But he was like, nah, just choose one, preferably 3 evolution stage, but like something with evolutions, and you'll probably get it unless it's a dragon or pseudo legendary. And I'm like,
what?
no.
I
So
can't have a Beldum.
I mean, it's like now you've given me too many choices. Why would you do this?
Well, who's your favorite Pokemon?
I have a few.
What are they?
Vulpix, or like Vulpix Ninetales,
Hmm.
both Alolan and regular. Growlithe, both regular and Hisuian.
Hmm.
Hisuian, whatever. Um, I like Mareep.
There's
Always
one.
have since those games. I used a Mareep for a long time. And I mean Eevee is another one with so many possibilities. Um, Basically most cute Pokemon.
Mareep has 3 evolutions,
It
so
does.
also
But
has a Mega form if they're allowing that.
I don't know if we do, but possibly. Uh, I had actually a list of uh, the things, but I would need to scroll for a bit for that. Um, there we go. Should find it soon enough. But the character concept went from a breeder to now I think I'm gonna be a former Team Rocket, which we have another person in the group who's gonna be a former Team Rocket. Also, the
Oh,
setting
neat.
is we're gonna be Poketectives, so Pokemon detectives, apprentices, and so another person was gonna go former Team Rocket, and I talked to him about it, and maybe I'll also do the same. Where, because I mean, Team Rocket aren't the nicest to their Pokemon, as I understand it. Um,
Depends on them. I mean,
yeah,
in the anime, Jesse and James are pretty nice to their
yeah,
Pokemon,
yeah.
with the exception of Wobbuffet, but that's because Wobbuffet's annoying. Um,
But by and large, I think as an organization, they don't really put that much value on their Pokemon. I think.
mhm. Pokemon are tools, not creatures.
Yeah. Um, where my character would have been abandoned by Team Rocket, left to die, and saved by their Pokemon, and like flip on a dime, where it's like I now love Pokemon, hate humans, humans suck. Because there's a class in that one called Channeler that I was quite interested in, where I think you can sort of connect to your Pokemon and sort of intuit what their intentions and sort of like that. You form links to your Pokemon and stuff like that. So
Neat.
I'm thinking I'll be going into, well, I mean, I'll be starting out with some sort of semi illegal thing that I can tie to Team Rocket's background, and I'll be going into Channeler and possibly some sort of healer as well. I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna play a guy, sort of grumpy looking, but you know, he's going to be really kind and sweet and loving to Pokemon, and like, you know, sort of, sort of the stereotype of rough looking guy with cute Pokemon. Like I like rough looking guy loving animals sort of stereotype, but in Pokemon. That's what I think I'm going for right now. So also because like most of my favorite Pokemon are cute Pokemon. That's how I roll. So then what I've been thinking about is Vulpix, Eevee, Mareep, Shroomish, Skitty, Swablu. Although I don't know even if I could have a Swablu because Altaria is dragon.
Altaria is a dragon, but I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they're pseudo-legendary.
Yeah. Shinx, Deerling, Rockruff, Hatena, Rookidee. I think those are the ones I'm currently thinking about.
If you're leaning more towards the three evolution ones, that cuts down that list by a lot.
I know. Well, it was more just so recommended with three-stage evolution because that's what starter Pokemon usually have.
Mhm.
I'm sure that it's not a hard rule.
Oh, probably not, but
So
just a suggestion.
yeah, but those were on my list. So
That's fair. I am I know I have a relatively small sample size so far, but believe you told me you played an Oracle in Pathfinder before?
yes.
Okay. I know Oracle can be a healing class. I
Mhm.
also know that the first merit that you grabbed in Chronicles was Lay on Hands,
Yep.
which evolved into Healer and Deviant.
Mhm.
If Ogmios or Omnos gets the Healer Calling or the Healing Purview, uh, I don't know if I'm gonna be surprised.
I don't think he will though. I honestly do not think he will be a healer ever.
That's valid.
Uh, but yeah, my Pokemon character might go into some healing. I also think that it's something that we may not have in the group. But then with all the multitude of classes that you can go into, like grabbing parts of them, it also wouldn't surprise me if we do have someone pick something like that up.
Worth asking. Hey, anybody plan on grabbing Healer?
There's also an Oracle class in that system. I can't remember what they do though, but it is more about fortune telling and stuff like that. But I seem to recall they looked somewhat interesting. Not quite as interesting as Channeler though. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Uh, I just felt like a healing class could make sense with someone who wants to care for Pokemon.
yeah, I get you. Oh,
But like I said, I barely know how that system works, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I have my character archetype or personality
that's what I
sort
do.
of settled on. Stereotype, I should say, more than archetype. Um, because I think it's useful. Like, I mean, stereotypes can be, tired concepts that have been seen so many times, but also stereotypes tend to be stereotypes because they work uh,
A
and are good
trope is a trope.
storytelling tools. So
Yeah.
I
A
find
trope is
them
a
helpful.
trope because it works. A
Mm-hmm.
cliche is what's bad.
Mm.
Because, like, cute or big, buff, grumpy, scary, murderous looking dude paired with a cute creature or a cute hobby is a classic and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the actual plays that I listened to, one of the NPCs is a guy whose house is bedecked in a lot of like hunting paraphernalia, and he's got hound dogs, and he's like sharpening a cleaver type of thing, but he's a baker who was making fairy cakes. Type of thing.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I
It's
like it.
just when those tropes become a cliche and it's just like, oh well, then now I know everything about this character type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and also I feel because my other idea was for a more rascal rogue type of um, character, which is also a trope. Uh, but I feel like there's less room for character growth in that one. I mean, there is room for it, of course, and the growth can also be, devolving into something darker, some twisting of it. But with the concept that I have now, I feel like I have a very clear character growth path where it's like, yeah, he
Mhm.
hates humans now, but maybe, and that will probably cause some friction in the group as well. But maybe he will eventually learn to get along with at least parts of the group or hate humans less because of the group. Have some faith in humanity restored. That's one of my aspirations for him, you might say. So, yeah, that's one of the reasons also why I like this trope that I've semi settled on, is because I feel like I have some. It lends itself to some goals for the character for me as a player.
Yeah. See, like even in that, just to kind of tie it all back together at the end here, like it's a character that is dark, but there's hope.
Hmm. And they're not all
Like,
dark either, because
oh,
there's the cutesy part to lighten the mood.
exactly. Like, honestly, I really don't think that people should run dark games if they're not gonna crack jokes.
Well, I
I mean
mean,
that.
to each their own. Some people enjoy just having really dark stuff,
That's why
I
you,
guess.
that's why I said I think. Because I don't know how many times I crack jokes, especially at my own expense, type of thing, when doing Chronicles.
Mm.
Because it helped lighten the mood a little bit. Like times were got tense, and it's just kind of like, oh wait, no, just depending on what moment it was, is like, okay, this needs to play out, or I need to let them know that things are okay still. So do a quick joke here.
Yeah, and
Um,
I mean, I can sort of relate to it because, when Ruby burned her ex, and then it's sort of like, yeah, I need a new phone now because I had a literal burner phone.
exactly, things like that. Stuff like that's good, at least in my opinion,
Yeah.
because
I also
like,
feel like, in retrospect, I see now that we could have been We could have been an ecchi anime where it's like every time Ruby uses her power, she burns her clothes, because that would have been so typical anime.
Maybe with a different vibe, because I think we did keep the right of pants. At Keestra's request.
Yeah. I am not saying that I would have encouraged that. It just struck me that her phone burnt. This sounds like a lot of animes that some of my friends like.
Um, and just to quickly explain it, the Rite of Pants, I believe, is a Werewolf the Apocalypse thing or a Werewolf the Forsaken One thing, where it's your pants are magically saved between shifting your forms.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for me, it is more important to sort of keep keep the to not make anyone uncomfortable, basically. Where it's like realism can take the backseat to that. I am more on board with making sure that everyone is comfortable and we're not like being super fucking awkward about things. Like, oh, well, since your phone is burning, your clothes would also be burning, so now you're naked. Nah, that's just gonna be awkward. Let's not do that.
I
It's silly and fun in theory. Let's not do it in actuality.
Because you would have lost your clothes a lot.
I would have.
But it's definitely dependent on group. Like there are people that I would play that type of game with, but it also would be like, okay, and now you're naked and we're moving forward type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as a whole, my player's comfort is tantamount type of thing.
And I
I
mean, it's
will.
the same with because in Apocalypse World you have the special moves, which almost all of them. There's like maybe one or two exceptions. Activate when a character has sex with someone.
Mhm.
Um, but and some people just see that and they're like, this system is not for me because this sounds really awkward. But like the moves are really not essential whatsoever. You can just say, nah, we're not doing sex in this, or like, even if it's just fade to black. But like, if you don't want sex in your games, you can still play Apocalypse World. It's just these moves won't happen. And it won't make the game any lesser for it.
Right. I was actually going to take a look at something quick. Because so for example, in the same vein, just like not just apocalypse or type of thing, just more to say that you have what's called the lover calling in Scion type of thing, and a calling is generally kind of an aspect that um what's the word I'm thinking of? An aspect of a god type of thing. It's not necessarily what they have over type like have dominion over or anything like that. That's a purview, but it's kind of like stuff that's natural about them type of thing. They can just kind of pull and do things about that. Like the lover knack axe has some abilities that's just like, oh, you can see who they're into and stuff like that. And it's like I'm fine reflavoring this stuff.
Mm.
Like using some of the moves as example in Apocalypse World, if it's just like, okay, well, instead of having sex, it's when you hold someone's hand,
Yeah.
type of thing. Um, but
And
yeah,
again, like some of those moves really are like it will not matter. Or in some of the cases, you can get the same move in different situations as a skill. The Skinner is an example of that, where normally, um, oh god, how does that move work? I think it's like normally if you have sex with someone, you can choose to have like you can choose to force them to give you something. That is one of the things you can do with it. I think there are several things you can do, but you can say that they have to give you something, an item. But you can also get a skill where all that's needed is time and solitude with the person. So it could be, to DM discretion, but going to have a coffee together, and then the ability will activate.
Exactly.
So
Don't be afraid to change things from the books.
yeah, modify it to yours and your players' comfort and enjoyment. The rules are
Exactly.
there to make the system fun, not to limit people or make people uncomfortable. And it's
And
enough
that,
that one person is uncomfortable, in my opinion.
yeah, because if it's definitely a everyone has the veto button.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'll be more than happy to go over safety tools in regards to things, just have an entire conversation about that at some point
Yeah.
for those that may not be aware. But if people are not comfortable at my table, I'm not having a good time. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
I think that I'm going to have to request like a session 0 with my Pokemon group because like most of these people I have not played with, and like I'm fine with a lot of things, but and so for me, it's not so much about talking about comfort, although I think that that's an important thing, particularly if any of the other people in the group have things that they don't want brought up, then I want to know that so I don't accidentally make someone uncomfortable. For me, it's more about like this, about me expressing like this is what I like about role plays, this is how I like to role play, and what I want out of it, out of this, where my focus is at, and also this is how I play. I do not mean anything. Like, if my character is upset with you, that does not mean that I am. And if I'm making you uncomfortable with, like, too much of an aggressive tone or choice of word from my character, do tell me and I will tone it down. But also know that it's not coming necessarily from me. But if it comes across as an attack from me, I want to know so that I can change it.
Every table should have a session 0. Even if you're not using safety tools, every table should have a session 0. And at least in my experience, everyone should make their fucking characters together.
I don't think you need to make your characters together.
I'm not doing that again.
I
uh,
mean, we like when we did Chronicles, we didn't do our characters together.
no, you didn't. And so I had to figure out how to get 5 people from vastly disparate things to this haunted house. And
Well, I
then
mean, I think you don't need to have character creation together, but as a DM, you could have said you all need a reason to be here.
I could have. I
Because I
definitely
mean,
could have.
that's how
And I
my new
didn't.
group has gone about it. Is like we've been told you are part of this detective agency. The reason why I don't know as a DM. That's up to you, but you are part of this.
The
Figure it
the
out.
other the other reason, at least for higher scale games that I'm doing that for, is because I talked to all of you guys about the stuff when we went from the Blue Book to Deviant.
Mhm.
And everyone did all of their Deviant stuff separately.
Mhm.
And so within the span of 2 weeks, I made like 24 NPCs. It was mostly just names and general attitudes, not actual stats or anything like that.
Mhm.
But like every little thing was just like, okay, so we need these 5 NPCs per person because it's their touchdowns. Okay, cool, we've got those. And then it's like, I need all of this other stuff for the conspiracies. Holy shit. And
Mhm.
I just made them all out a few nights before because that's when I got the final bit of information.
Yeah, I feel bad for you. But on the other hand, if you make characters together, because I'm the type of player who likes to have secrets from other players,
Mhm.
and I am a
I'm not.
problematic player, both for other players and for the DM, because it's like, here's my little secret, don't tell it to anyone. I want this to be a reveal one day, or to just sort of be hinted at over and over until people figure it out.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. It's more of the okay, so generally this is what I'm thinking and I'm coming from here type of thing.
Mm,
Because like I think in my Monday game, they still don't know that my character is neurodivergent and dyslexic. And we've been playing that for 4 years.
Yeah.
The only person that does is the player that had to stop because of outside influences. The
Mm.
player that had to stop playing because of scheduling conflicts.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I've for the Pokemon roleplay, I have talked to one player about my character because we potentially have some shared past, so I allow that character to know stuff about my character.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I'm more open also to not have secrets from players that I know won't metagame. Uh, I'm not saying that these people that I'm playing with now will, because I have no idea. I've never played with them, and I even with people I know won't metagame, I do like the secrets because reveals are fun. I think I'm the type of person who enjoys other players' reveals, so for me that's just like a given that there will be some secrets.
It depends definitely on the secret.
Mm. Yeah, I'm not saying I make
Like
great secrets or good secrets at
oh
all,
no,
but you know.
like by all means, you could sit there and have the secret. I am the one responsible for this player character's death, type of thing, or the parent's death, or whatever it was. But like stuff in regards to in the deviant game again, Jacob's whole deal, I wanted that above the board. And the reason why I wanted that above the board was because one, it would have led to conflict and no one really likes PvP, so it was kind of like I need this to be addressed on how we're going to handle it. And then for two, because it was a betrayal of the party, and that coming out of nowhere can sometimes lead
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. Yeah, for me
But like,
it's oftentimes abilities that I end
yeah,
up keeping secret. Like with the Oracle, where it was, re-rolling dice. But like that one's much easier to do, I feel, in person. Because like it's so hard to tell the DM to re-roll something or to tell the DM to tell someone else to re-roll something without them knowing before the results are revealed without alerting the other players online unless you can have some visual sign or whatever.
you could whisper to the DM
Yeah, but
and
then I
roll
need to
20.
do that fast enough so that the DM doesn't have time to reveal the results.
Just a quick X.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, because I think no one knew the extent of Ruby's healing until you brought those characters back to life.
I was
They
thinking
knew
whether or
you
not they
could
did,
heal.
but I mean, people would have
They
perhaps assumed or suspected.
they did suspect, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think you kept Shadows of the Past secret for half the game.
Yeah. I
I
didn't
think
use it like at all.
you used it twice
Yeah.
to find information about the mysterious figure, and
So yeah, that's apparently what I do. I keep my abilities secret until they're used.
like that's fun though.
I like it. Obviously,
It's
I
just
do it, so.
gosh, but yeah,
And that's also why I probably don't like doing character creation together with people, because
that's
then
fair.
I might have to reveal my class and abilities, and I don't always want that.
But yeah, we've been at it for a little while,
Yeah.
so we could keep talking about characters all day. I'm sure, but I think we do have to end at some point.
Yeah, we've already gone over time, so as per usual. This didn't end up being a Fire Emblem episode, though.
No, but we kind of planned for that after the thing, so
Yeah.
it was mentioned a couple of times, but we will do the big one next time. So
Yeah.
okay, but with that, we'll catch you guys on the on the next podcast as soon as I
Mhm.
get this one up.
Mm.